If once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Consume you it will, as it did faking Star Wars radio. That's right, it is our dark and spooky Halloween edition of your favorite Star Wars comedy podcast, the official podcast of FakingStarWars.net. This week, we have an interview with a longtime cosplayer, a spooky edition of Duel of the Fakes, a tweet of the week, maybe some listener mail if you're lucky, and a horrifying edition of Star Wars or Not. You will pee your Padawan robes in fear by the end of today's episode. We also have some interviews with some very special guests, so please make sure to keep it tuned to Faking Star Wars Radio for the whole episode. We also have a warning on this episode of the podcast. It is our first PG-13 episode. We have an interview with the Instagram account holder Shitty Star Wars, who produces fantastic sketches, but unfortunately his name is PG-13, so please do not be triggered by the profanity you will find during that interview. In the studio with me today is IG69.
Back again. How are you guys doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. You know, IG, the word on the street is that T. Brontor may join us for part of this episode. Are you excited to meet him?
I am terrified.
Yeah, you've only heard his voice, but never in person have you met. I'm a little worried. You know, you guys are kind of like matter and antimatter. If you meet, we may have a nuclear meltdown in the studio.
Well, that would be awesome.
At least we would get some more people to come and help us out, and they might hear some of the podcasts as they're trying to drag your charred remains out of the basement of our podcast studio.
And we do need hazmat suits. We do.
Basically, anytime you open your mouth, I think I need hazmat suit. It's been a while since you've brushed your teeth, IG, and I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
Well, that'll tie into one of our later segments.
Okay, IG, that sound means it's time for another fantastic and spookifying tweet of the week. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready. What's on the Twitterverse this time?
This tweet comes to us from Willie Bobo. Willie Bobo says, Harrison Ford wakes in cold sweat after nightmarish vision of Han Solo still being alive.
That is terrifying.
That is a terrifying thought of Han Solo still being alive, especially since he got stabbed through the heart with a lightsaber.
Oh, and then fell down a giant pit into a planet that exploded.
It would be an interesting cross-universe to blend Star Wars with The Walking Dead and have The Walking Solo.
I think it would be Walking Solo. That sounds like a good series. Yes.
Oh yeah, it's kind of some double entendre there, isn't it?
Maybe just him walking alone.
Right.
Because he has no people.
Right, he has no people. Yeah. Dude, you have no people. Yeah, Zombie Solo, Harrison Ford coming back from the dead to play this character one more time.
I would love that just to see how pissed off Harrison Ford would be on camera.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's common
Luke's
knowledge.
Gone, but bring back Han Solo for the last episode. Oh my God.
What if they just had a framed photo of him in Episode 9 on the Millennium Falcon, you know? Rey gives it to Chewbacca as a gift.
No, make it so that he was integrated into the Falcon system and now he is the voice of the Falcon.
Right. Well, it's funny, you know, one of the criticisms of The Force Awakens was that at the end, Leia kind of, what's the word?
Lived?
Oh. Oh my God, you're going to hell. No, she snubbed Chewbacca, right? I mean, she comes off realizing Han Solo's dead. Here comes Chewie. She kind of snubs him and doesn't give him a hug or anything, really, you know.
Oh, and Chewie shouldn't have been in that shot. that was a mistake of the like when the characters were walking off the ship. Chewie wasn't supposed to be in the scene.
Okay, yeah, but what I mean is it was a snub. I mean, Chewbacca got snubbed, and Luke snubbed Chewie as well at the end of The Last Jedi. I mean, he made some holographic fake trippy dice for Leia, but what did Chewie get? All he got was a new girlfriend and a pet porg.
Well, I mean, all you can eat.
Right, yeah. The Kashyyykian and fried porg. A buffet of Kashyyykian and fried porg, $20.99, you know?
So, that was also that also kind of bugged me about the movie that I could see Luke not wanting to talk to Rey, but Chewie's just hanging out on the planet. You'd think they'd have a chance to sit down and have a little heart-to-heart.
Well, I mean, Harrison Ford really hasn't done too much since The Force Awakens. Do you think he's done with cinema?
No, he's planning on doing Indiana Jones 5.
I tried to forget about that, but now you've reminded me. Thank you so much about reminding me that.
Yeah, that's going to be oh my God.
What is Kathleen Kennedy what's the angle she's gonna take with that if she ruins two fantastic properties by putting out a horrible Indiana Jones film?
Again, you cannot make a good Indiana Jones 5 with Harrison Ford unless he's in it for the very first 10 minutes and retires.
What other series is more character driven? I mean, it's 007 and Indiana Jones, right? I mean, you can't recast Harrison Ford.
No, you can recast Harrison Ford just the way they recast James Bond. You just can't have old Bond. You can't have Sean Connery playing James Bond now. I love Sean Connery as Bond, but you know what? It was time for Roger Moore.
Right.
It's time for Timothy Dalton. I mean, even people didn't like him, but you need new Bonds. You need new. Indiana Jones is a serial adventure. You just cast someone like they did it with the Solo movie.
Well, that's an interesting thing. We're going to talk about that. We've talked about that a little bit already, but I mean, Alden Ehrenreich, did he do a good job? Would it have been better to just de-age Harrison Ford?
No.
You don't think so?
He did a fine job, and Harrison Ford is like, he's very spotty as an actor, like whether or not he bothers to put any effort into it. And he tries with Indiana Jones, and he did a decent send-off for Han Solo, but I mean, did you watch Ender's Game or something like that where he just...
Oh, he phoned it in.
Oh, it's awful.
But that film was terrible, and that's young adult, and it's really not an opportunity for an actor to shine. I mean...
Well, then don't take the role.
Yeah. I mean, I think he probably
took the money to do a good job, right?
It was probably to get ready for The Force Awakens. He'd been out of the sci-fi acting world for a while.
That was years before. Years and years and years.
Yeah, well, it does take 26 years to make these films,
Anyway, I just I would like to see Indiana Jones just recast.
Who would you cast as Indiana Jones?
You don't want to watch The Adventures of Grandpa.
The Adventures of Dirty Grandpa, starring Harrison Ford.
Right. Oh God, it's he's not. He can't be suave anymore. He can't be the ladies' man. He can't do the action things. That's all Indiana Jones is.
They could recast Harrison Ford in Star Wars as an air traffic accident. Actually, I was thinking about going for that as Halloween, as an airline crash for Halloween.
Well, I mean, you got the looks for
it. How many people have successfully crashed an airplane 3 times and lived to tell about it? So if he can do that, surely he can come back in Star Wars.
Well, no, I mean, him coming back in Star Wars again, I think it would just be funny. But no, that's not happening. They gave him the ultimate death.
That's true.
In the sense that he is super dead.
He's not mostly dead.
Phasma got out, but she didn't get stabbed with a lightsaber.
Yeah, well, there is some speculation Phasma got out a second time.
Got out because she was in the next movie.
Well, she got out in Force Awakens, but I don't think she got out in Last Jedi.
No, she seemed pretty dead there.
Yeah. That's sort of a curious thing in the modern era. We didn't really ever have that in the original Star Wars, of this idea of, are they dead or not?
Yeah, no. I mean, I guess Obi-Wan, the Force Ghost kind of thing, because he was just kind of a voice in Luke's head that may or may not have been real.
Yeah, but it's not like it's not a plot point. I mean, he gets killed, but then within seconds, he's telling Luke, "Run, Luke, run." It's not. There's no drama associated with it, or
no.
Yeah, it's just
he's transcended the mortal realm, and now he's a vague ghost, and then a glowing ghost.
Right, but now it just seems that the fans, they're just obsessed with this idea of characters coming back to life, like horrible zombie versions of their previous great selves. What do you suppose that's due to, that people have become so obsessed with that zombie return of their classic characters?
I blame the comic book movies, because in comic books, I mean, people, like, the superheroes die all the time, and they always come back.
Well, that's one of the reasons I don't typically go for comic books, because I think it means you can kind of do anything. There's no rules.
Well, that's sort of a trademark of the Avengers things. No one actually dies. I mean, at the end of the last Avengers, the Infinity Wars. I mean, most of them are dead, sort of, but they're coming back.
I mean, I guess half of them get evaporated by Thanos, right?
Yeah, at least. More, really. Half the universe gets evaporated, but quite a bunch of the heroes do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, of course, once they defeat Thanos, they can just use those Infinity Stones to bring everyone back. So, they're coming back because they have more movies to make. Like Black Panther, he's not done with making movies.
No.
They're going to make 3 or 4 more of those.
Well, they already have...
You can't kill off Spider-Man.
They already have a Spider-Man in the pipeline, right?
Yeah. So, although that might be set before that movie, before the Infinity Wars came out, but he's definitely come. Like they rebooted him, and it was very successful. So they're not done with money.
Well, did you see the Ant-Man and the Wasp film?
I have not.
It was okay. I mean, it was what you thought it would be. But the final scene, spoilers, is really tied into what happened and why he didn't appear in Infinity War.
Ah, okay. He was busy?
Yeah, he was actually busy being stuck in the quantum realm.
It will be funny if everyone ended up in the quantum realm, so he's just like, oh, hey, guys.
Oh, right, that's where they go, right? When Thanos vaporizes you, that's where you go.
Yeah, suddenly half the universe is just hanging out in the quantum realm.
Somehow I think that is actually what's going to happen. But anyway, we're talking about the wrong property here.
Yes, we are.
So, yeah, a lot of things to think about with Star Wars and Halloween and characters coming back to life. What other classic character would you like to see make a return, if in a more maniacal, monstrous way?
Well, I always wanted to see what happened, because the original, with Boba Fett, because the original idea was he escaped the Sarlacc pit, but then they changed that and said, no, he definitely died in the Sarlacc pit. Though with the new Mandalorian series coming out, I'm glad that he's not going to be a part of that, because I don't want to see old characters in that series.
Well, I think that, they spent a lot of time building up this villain, a lot of time and money on the character design, and then he was just in the one movie and then died, and you never got any of his backstory or anything. You know who I'm talking about?
Snoke?
No, the Rancor monster from Return of the Jedi. You never find out how he turned evil or what his nutritional needs are, anything.
Oh, perhaps we can have what do you call it? The reality show with like a Star Wars Big Brother kind of thing with the Rancor and
Big Rancor.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
And they're all just hanging out in a house, eating each other, and
I think he'd make a great roommate.
Yeah, he's a clean freak.
Yeah, he has OCD. Yeah, the Rancor monster has OCD. He takes 20 showers a day.
Oh my god!
Great. All right. Well, if you have any tweets for us, hit me up at DuperStorm on Twitter or Willie Bobo at Faking Star Wars. We'll be sure to read them on the air next time. All right. Well, we do have a special episode of the podcast. We have two of our co-hosts with us in the studio. IG69, our assassin droid of terror, and Teeb Rontor. IG, what are you dressing up as for Halloween this year?
The same thing I dress up as every year, Slave Leia.
Okay. And a very sexy one, I must add, at that.
Really brings out the shine in my robotic bits.
Shiny robotic bits. That leaves me with a lot to think about.
An image you will not unsee.
How about you, Teeb?
Well, it's funny you should mention that. I just had a hollow wedding where I dressed up as Lone Star from a somewhat well-known Mel Brooks movie, Spaceballs, which is all about making fun of Star Wars.
Brilliant. Now, was this your hollow wedding or somebody you knew?
Well, I was there. I was just pretty much like the eye candy, dress up like Lone Star, show my medal, and it says I'm an actual prince. I'm a real prince. That was pretty much my whole line. I'm a prince. I'm a prince. I do. And then, that was it.
So you were the one being hollow-wedded?
I was being hollow-wedded, yes.
And this is your honeymoon appearing on Faking Star Wars Radio. Wow, that bodes well for your future.
The things I do for you people.
Very good, very good. Lone Star, that's a fantastic parody. Of course, it's the preeminent parody in the Star Wars universe. But as Star Wars gets bigger and bigger, there's all kinds of new properties, all kinds of new costumes. Myself, I personally like to dress up as Darth Vader, using the actual plastic mask that you might have worn when you were a child so that it starts to cut into my face. By the end of the evening, there's just a pool of blood that I'm standing in, crying over my candy corn.
Well, as long as you get your food, though. I mean, it's trick or treat, so people are definitely going to give you food and get you the hell off of their porch because they're terrified. Yeah.
Most people try to get me off their porch as soon as they see me coming.
Yeah, I mean, do you trick or treat? Because I mean, that would get you shot where I'm from.
Well, luckily you're only 4 foot tall, Stormtrooper, so you can blend in.
Yeah. I tend to try to attach myself to another group of children walking around and ask them if I can trick or treat with them. Sometimes it works better than other times.
Yeah, you definitely get shot in my neighborhood.
Yeah, parents just don't seem to like it when you approach their children and ask if you can play with them as a stranger on Halloween. I don't know why.
Yeah, they're crazy like that.
Well, one of the good things we have to think about this fall, in lieu of a Star Wars leaks for a new movie, is this new television show, which we did discuss a little bit last week with Darth Drivel himself. Is the Star Wars television live-action show, The Mandalorian. Have you guys had some time to sort of absorb this news? And it's, what a great character for Halloween. The costume is so iconic. Everything about this show is really getting fans excited. What have you guys been thinking about?
Well, I personally can't wait. Jon Favreau is, I think, one of the best directors in Hollywood. His acting, he doesn't really act that much, but he's figured out that he's much better behind the camera than in front of it. And if you watch how much he's grown since Zathura, if you ever watched the movie Zathura, I didn't realize that he actually directed that, and we watched that recently. And he's very imaginative, and he takes a lot of risks and things like that. And he has a lot of fun with his movies. So I'm really excited to see what he puts together with Mandalorian. But he also has to navigate the fanboys. He has to navigate the crazies who are going to be worrying about they're going to be dissecting everything that he does. My advice to him would be just to have fun with it and just completely ignore whatever anybody says and just make it the movie that the show that you would love to have had when you were a kid, when you were thinking about Boba Fett. Flying around, not getting eaten by the Sarlacc.
Well, I'm going to recommend that he preemptively delete his Twitter account.
Yeah. That can only lead to trouble.
You should make a fake Twitter account and then make that his real Twitter account and put on their parody and then confuse people and then let one of his interns run his actual Twitter account and just put up recipes for potato salad.
Well, we have been in touch with him. We offer this service to many celebrities of a faking satire social media presence, and he's expressed some interest in going with us. There's not many people that offer this service, so I think we're in line to do this for him.
But doesn't he have to speak Russian?
We have actually, you may not know this, but we have a very successful partnership with Rosetta Stone. We've worked with them before on Shirawuk, and Russian is very related to Shirawuk, so it's really not going to be difficult. That if that's the thing keeping him from doing it, it's not going to be a problem. So
I'll definitely let him know. Because I think he might actually have to do that after the Mandalorian comes out.
Absolutely. What about that Boba Fett costume, do you think makes it such a Halloween favorite for young fans?
Well, it just looks awesome. It has a jetpack, a rocket, a blaster. The helmet is amazing. There's nothing uncool about that costume.
I had the original Boba Fett figure, but of course, the one that had the rocket that actually shot out with a spring, They actually discontinued that very quickly, and that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I never actually realized until Return of the Jedi came out that it was a jetpack. I thought it was just a rocket.
So did I. I was kind of bummed out when I found out that it was they didn't shoot. Yeah.
I've never
maybe he should have launched it into the damn Sarlacc as he was falling down. I mean, just that would have been handy, but it was actually just like a fuel pack or something. That was lame. It's like, who makes a fuel pack that looks like a trident or whatever, like an arrow, like a spear? That didn't make any sense to me.
I'm not trying to contradict you, T, but you're wrong about that. It's not that it was only a jetpack. It's that it was a jetpack and a rocket launcher, because if you'll remember in Attack of the Clones, Jango Fett actually shoots his rocket at Obi-Wan Kenobi on Kamino.
But Boba Fett never does. So
I
think it was just like ornamental, like an homage to his dad, who's not really his dad. It's his clone or whatever the hell. But yeah.
Okay.
Because obviously he didn't ever fire the damn thing. So, it was just ornamental. It was just like for show. Just like, look, I got this cool rocket and I'll use it. You better watch out. But then he never does.
Well, maybe he should design his jetpack to stand up to more than a poke with a stick.
That would have been good. That would have been a good idea.
That's a horrible design flaw.
Yeah, when this gets hit with a stick, it careens you every which way at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
The most deadly bounty hunter in the world, as long as you don't have sticks on your planet.
Blasters, lightsabers, no problem. Oh, pointy stick.
Yeah. What was that stick, by the way, that Han Solo used? I mean, that was a prop design for Return of the Jedi, but I mean, was that a practical spear, or was that, I mean...
It's like, it's got a blade on one end, so it's a bit like a halberd, and I think it's got like some sort of taser or something, so you can like stun people or slice them. It's like a guard stick.
It's a shock stick. It's a shock stick with an edge at the end. Yeah.
I see. And I'm sure you saw the photos of the weapon that Jon Favreau posted for The Mandalorian, which is kind of that two-edged sword gun thing that originally appeared in the Star Wars Holiday Special.
My favorite Star Wars Holiday Special of all time.
I'll take your word for it.
He still hasn't watched it, IG. Can you believe it?
You guys gotta give it to me. Send it to me. I have no idea how to get it. It's on VHS? I have a better chance.
YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I downloaded it off some site. I can't remember which one, but I think most of it's on YouTube. You can watch it in installments, go through different bits of it. It's pretty awful, but it's just got some interesting little Star Wars bits that later became important. So I still enjoyed it.
But then YouTube tracks your viewing history, right? So that would be on my permanent YouTube record that I watched that movie.
If you logged in, yeah.
But you get a badge saying you're the hardest core Star Wars fan if you actually get through it, like end to end.
Yeah. One of these days. He'll probably try to use some of the audio from it, so I probably should get caught up on it.
Oh, it definitely will. I mean, it's a bizarre show. Everyone should watch it once. I recommend a lot of whiskey for the experience, though, to get you through it.
Oh,
Well,
and
it's to Ireland, so that's good.
It's less miserable if you're with a couple friends who can laugh at it.
I don't have any friends.
So.
Do you guys know anyone who would like to be my friend?
I believe the Better Call Bosk kind of thing. You can rent Bosk as a friend. He'll come to your house. He'll pretend to like you and maybe take you in for some bounty-related issue.
Snuggle with you?
Bosk
right.
gives the
rock you to sleep.
Better call Bosk. Bosk is a nanny. You know, Bosk shows up at your door to take care of your children.
Well, we did that Bosk our clip a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
He does aromatherapy as well.
Yeah, he's a very savvy, cool dude.
Yeah, it's the gas bomb things.
Oh, right. I forgot about those. Do you think Bosk will show up in The Mandalorian or any other bounty hunters from that scene in Empire, like Dengar?
Okay, this is what I need to know. What's the timeline for Mandalorian? When does it take place?
In between, I think, The Force Awakens and Last Jedi, but in a different part of the galaxy.
Not between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens?
Return of the Jedi, yeah.
What did I say? I said yes between
You said The
those
Force
two.
Awakens and... so it's after Jedi.
Yeah. It kind of explores the New Republic a little bit.
Okay, well that'll be interesting. And so it's not Boba Fett. It's just a different group of Mandalorians doing their thing.
Yeah,
Well,
I hope they
really
completely drop the Fett line because they in my opinion they screwed it up.
Yeah.
Making him a clone and all that is just kind of
The little blurb that he posted, Jon Favreau posted on Instagram, mentions both Jango and Boba Fett, and sort of you get the sense that this character is in their kind of heritage.
maybe he's in their clan because aren't they clans in Mandalore?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but I think like they have different family different families part of the same clan.
Tribes. They're tribes, really. I feel like they're almost like Native American tribes, the way you think about them. So I just hope that that they're on the periphery of the series, that you don't see them all the time. Like it's not. I don't want it to be it's the Fets. Meet the Fets. I don't care about the Fets. I'm over them. You know, show me other Mandalore characters that you can just do whatever you want to do with it at that point. You don't have to worry about continuity or anything like that, because this is an interesting group of people within the Star Wars universe that you should be able to have a lot of fun with.
Right.
That's the thing, though. They're not good guys. They're not good guys by any stretch of the imagination. So it'll be interesting.
Bad guys either, like it's a whole planet. Like it's a whole planet of people. It's a whole culture. There's good and bad factions within it. They're kind of a warrior group, but they're not and bounty hunters aren't villains particularly. It's just that when the Empire is the government, they work for the government. So the government puts out bounties, or private individuals put out bounties. So they kind of work for whoever's putting bounties out on people. They will catch people, just some proper criminals and some resistance fighters. It depends who's paying them. They're kind of just mercenaries.
Right, mercenaries. It's like if you watch Star Wars Rebels, though, they have an actual Mandalorian on their crew, on the Ghost. The Rebels do, and they actually have a couple of episodes that are dedicated to how she has to navigate being a Mandalorian, and how she has to go back home and deal with some issues.
Are you talking about
issues and stuff?
You're talking about Sabine, the teenage bounty hunter, right?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Doesn't she have a romantic interest on the show?
Oh.
I think Ezra.
They've
the lead.
Never really developed that.
No, because
That's
the
so,
feminists got all upset about how, oh, she has to fall in love with the guy, like that was a big problem or something like that, because you can't have any romance. You're about to go face the Empire and be slaughtered the next day, but the reality is that you don't have time for love or any kind of physical comforts at all. You basically just are running around and fighting for your life, and you don't have time to be worrying about matters of the heart.
I don't know. I hope it's just a completely unrelated set of people set in the Star Wars universe, because that's what we desperately need. Like for Star Wars is like when we're tied to these same characters from the original series, it just limits what you can do. But it's a massive universe with interesting cultures and great alien races, cool monsters, and awesome ships. So I'm hoping they just go completely making a brand new series with no relation to anyone.
I just hope nobody steps in the poopy.
Jar Jar Binks has to come back as like the wise mentor or something.
Yeah. All right, well, it will be interesting to see how things develop here in the next few months, and I hope you have your costumes ready. I, for one, am planning on going as a Mandalore, going as someone dressed as IG-69, trying to preserve his dignity.
That went long ago.
Duel of the Fakes. Duel. Well, IG and Teeb, either it's time for another Duel of the Fakes, or I've eaten too many candy corn droids and the sugar's gone to my head.
I know what you mean. I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but that song, it's just not stopped playing in my head from the very first time we played Duel of the Fakes. Well, me anyway. It's freaking haunting me. It really is.
Yes. I forgot to mention that. So, basically, as long as you've lost more duels than you've won, you're cursed to hear the theme song over and over again. But correct me if I'm wrong, Teeb or IG, I'm not sure, maybe both of you, you only need one more win to be batting over 500. Is that right?
That's right.
That seems
so
right.
Let's do this already. Quit pounding Star Wars candy and serve up some stories.
Okay, well, for those who are unfamiliar with Aragunga's most popular game, here's how Duel of the Fakes works. I'll read 3 Star Wars news stories, which should all be fake. And this one's going to be a little different because we have 2 people playing. So it's going to be IG and T's job to think it through, talk about it together, and guess which one of them is a real story posing as a fake. It's a lot like 3 trick-or-treaters at your door, but only 2 of them are actually in costumes. One of the little ghoulies is a real ghoul just pretending to be wearing a costume.
Way to confuse everyone, Stormtrooper.
Okay, so big spoiler, guys. This episode's Duel of the Fakes actually features 3 Halloween-related stories.
Yes.
Yeah. First up, a Florida man has once again erected... Ooh, man, whoever writes this stuff has a dirty mind. Has erected a 2-story tall replica of the Death Star outside his home as part of his Halloween decor. Every year, hundreds of people stop by Jared Fisher's home to take pictures of the structure and add to a donation box outside. Over the last 5 years, the Kissimmee resident, is that how you say that? Kissimmee resident has raised... Kissimmee?
You're killing me.
I want to try to kill you. That's my goal in life. But if I can do it accidentally and intentionally, then that's a twofer. The Kissimmee resident has raised nearly $5,000 for St. Jude's with his not so fully armed and operational battle station, made of wood, fiberglass, and hardened foam core. Here's story number 2, which may or may not be fake. Hip-hop super producer Dr. Dre is a huge Star Wars fan. So much so that over the years, he's dressed up as a stormtrooper and Chewbacca for Halloween. This year is no different, with Dre planning to debut his Kylo Ren outfit during his annual Halloween bash at his Los Angeles home.
Does he really have the nipples to pull that off?
Ooh, I don't know. Those are some saucy nipples if I've ever seen any.
Pepperoni.
That's right. Kylo Ren, I'm not sure I could see Dr. Dre as a Kylo Ren. He's more of a Snoke, don't you think?
I thought he goes Ray.
Yeah, he's a transvestite too. Okay, well, here's the third story for IG and Teeb today. Up in Canada, in honor of Teeb, or in honor of IG, I guess, the only Canadian assassin droid to have his own Star Wars comedy podcast. Up in Canada, this Star Wars Vancouver Centre Halloween concert will feature vampires and zombies playing spooky Star Wars music in a neo-Gothic church said to resemble Darth Vader's castle on Mustafar. The spooktacular orchestra, made up of vampires, witches, zombies, and other creepy creatures, will also perform selections from the Phantom of the Opera, as well as some classic pieces by Bach. So there you go. Is it the third story about the performance in the neo-Gothic church that looks like Vader's castle? The second one about Kylo Dre, or the first story about the guy who has the giant Death Star on his porch.
Ooh.
Well, I guess outside his house, not his porch. But
so who talks first? You talk first, IG? I talk first? You talk first? You talk first. You can talk first.
I'll let you take a guess first.
All right, well, Dr. Dre, I know he's cool and all, but he's just not that super cool, I don't think. And the Mustafar Castle, that seems like a bit of a stretch, but Florida Man, anytime you say Florida Man, anything is possible. Like Florida Man, insert blank. Yes, that's my 2 cents.
Florida Man wakes up early to take part in podcast that has listenership of the number of people recording the podcast, for example?
Something like that, yeah.
That story would never happen.
Well, yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Teeb on this. I'm going to guess that it's the Halloween Death Star ornament. I mean, I'm thinking of Vancouver churches. I don't think there's one that could pull that off.
You're actually originally from the Vancouver area. You were built in the Vancouver droid factories, right, IG?
Yeah, something like that. So I'm not buying that one. And Dr. Dre is Kylo Ren. Again, I just don't see him as Kylo Ren. I don't think he'd choose that. He may or may not be a big Star Wars fan. I just don't think he'd go as Kylo Ren. It doesn't really seem to fit. I can see him going as Chewbacca or who's the other character he went as?
Stormtrooper.
Stormtrooper. Sure. I mean, yeah. If you said Darth Vader, I could kind of get that, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'll stay with the Florida Man with his 2-story Death Star ornament. That actually sounds pretty awesome.
Is that what you both want to go with then?
Unless you want to throw some other kind of amazing twist at us that we don't know about.
Lately we've been doing sort of the Monty Hall thing where I take away a choice and then I give you the opportunity to switch.
I like that, yeah.
Okay. Well, I am going to actually take away option number 2, the Dr. Dre as Kylo Ren and Stormtrooper Chewbacca story. I'm going to tell you that one is definitely fake. Some background on that. So Dr. Dre has never dressed up as a Star Wars character so far as Faking Star Wars Radio knows. Now, our reporters are on the job. It's possible what he does in the privacy of his own home. We just aren't privy to. But in terms of his public image, we just have never seen any evidence of that. However, one legendary hip-hop duo, Outkast, one half of them has done that. So rapper Big Boy, if you guys are familiar with Big Boy, he is actually the Stormtrooper and Chewbacca fan who dresses up in full gear for Halloween. So he's a massive fan. Big Boy is the man. So you can go out there and support him because he supports Star Wars.
How do you spell that? Is it with an I, a Y?
It's a B-O-I. You know, it's like poi or something. You know, like a Vietnamese sandwich. I think isn't there like a
Like
what do they call the Vietnamese sandwich? Bon mê, boy bon mê, big boy, something like that. Anyway.
Big boy. Okay, but not like Big Boy, the burger place.
No, it's spelled differently. This is what you would call a homophone. So we'll take away number 2. So you're left with number 1 about the Death Star, which you originally chose, or would you like to change to option 3 about the Mustafar Castle in Vancouver that is the setting of a spooky concert?
Now, the castle in Vancouver, that's an existing church?
According to the story, it is actually a neo-Gothic church that some say resembles Darth Vader's castle. That's right.
I'm going to go with, statistically, you should always switch. But I'm going to go with, I've never seen a church that looks like Vader's castle in Vancouver.
In your
so
hometown.
I'm going to go with a little personal knowledge on that one and go, I'll
Okay.
stick with my original decision.
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna trust the Canadian droid here.
I've never led anyone astray.
No, never.
Well, you're an assassin droid, so I don't know if I can trust you yet.
And you
We'll
certainly
see.
never demonstrated any ignorance whatsoever of your own surroundings.
No, not at all.
Well, I have some bad news, gentlemen. That is the real story about the Mustafar Castle in Vancouver. Story number 1 is loosely based on a true story, but this is actually fake. There is no one in Florida who has made a giant Death Star for Halloween. However, there is a family in Columbus, Ohio, that builds a life-size AT-AT walker in front of their home every year for Halloween. So they put an Imperial flag above the walker, and it's nearly as tall as the family's house. And
I'm sure the HOA loves that.
Sorry, say that again?
I'm sure the HOA loves that.
Oh, right. Their homeowners association. Well, if this is Columbus, they're savages in Columbus, so I don't think they have any kind of civil associations of any kind there.
I think Florida needs to get its act together and build a Death Star.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I picked that is because Florida has there's an area for Christmas that a guy does his entire house where people come from out of state to see this guy's house. It's just fantastic. With ornaments. I think it's like a Christmas town kind of thing, but it's just his house. And it's just for years, even before it was really mainstream, this guy did this. So I could see somebody in Florida doing that. But then I started thinking that maybe Lucasfilm might come over and with their lawyers and hatchets and knock it down every time the guy tried to construct it. So
Right.
I just don't know. You got me.
You did not
All
buy
right.
your 2-story Death Star model from Lego branded with Star Wars, so we're going to take it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's always a surprise, but yes, it's true. So this Mustafar Castle, IG, you'll have to make that an appointment on your next trip back to your droid factory.
I'm going to look that up later and actually see what church they're talking about, because it's no neo-Gothic church in Vancouver. It's there's a concert hall near downtown that's sort of Gothic-esque, but it's not like Vader's castle. It's like a small, pleasantly gray building with a nice couple towers.
I see.
I have no idea where this thing is.
Well, you guys are definitely going to have the song bouncing through your head for a few more weeks now, I'm sorry to say.
Oh.
Yep. Loser, loser, loser.
That's a great song.
Yeah. One of these days we'll do one for you, Stormtrooper.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to play,
Definitely.
I never lose, though. I know everything, so.
So you
Challenge
have the
accepted.
answers in front of you.
I
Like
do have
Alex
the
from
answers
Back
in front of
Over
me.
Here.
That's true. I do. And we're back. With me today is the luscious, lovely, and intelligent Miss Nell Fox, who is a cosplayer, I think extraordinaire, living in Korea. Is that correct?
Yes, I live in Seoul.
Oh, wonderful. And so could you tell us, I don't know how long you've been into cosplay, but could you tell us how you got into it? What are your interests in that area?
Well, I'm flattered that you think I'm an extraordinaire. I've only been to 2 cons. I've been to Comic-Con in Korea, the first one, and now this new second one. They had us come back. I've known about cons for a while. My husband used to do PR for Kineticon back when it was just a little baby con, when they'd only get maybe a few hundred people coming, and now it's I think it's close to 20, 30,000.
Wow,
so,
that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, it got really big. So that was fun. I always wanted to go when he was doing it, but I was always working, so I was unable to. So I was really excited when Comic-Con came here. And I always wanted to do cosplay, but I didn't quite really know how, and I didn't know how to obtain the materials to do it. Mm-hmm. So luckily, my husband knows all about that. And we have a friend named Victor. He's amazing. He's from Croatia, and he does cosplay. So when he and my husband met, because he was having, I think, a little bit of trouble finding a place to make things and materials, and my husband knew all about that part, and he knew the theory of cosplay.
Wow.
So when the 3 of us got together, we kind of got to make it happen. So yeah, that's
so it sounds like
it
sort of came out of an organic thing with friends and community and your husband and his connections. And then you talked a little bit about the theory of cosplay. Can you let our fans know kind of what you're thinking? Because we're a very intellectual podcast. We have a reputation for being just sterling in terms of our rigor and research. So we're interested in what the theory of cosplay is.
Well, the theory of making, I should have said, sorry. He knows, okay, so you need this type of foam and that type of, sandpaper for all that fun stuff. And you should probably use a CNC cutter or a, 3D printer. He knew all the technicalities of how it's supposed to work.
Oh, wow.
But he didn't quite know where to find all of these things. And luckily, my husband knew all of that, so.
Well, that's great. You've probably learned how to solve a lot of problems along the way. As you're talking about the making process of it, I couldn't help but think of our episode that we did last week, which is kind of about the making of Star Wars and how they put the creatures together. And I have to think that there's kind of a connection, between making movies and the costumes in movies and what you're doing in terms of cosplay and the costumes that you're creating. Do you think that's true?
Oh, yeah, we have to take steps here and there. They were talking about just last night. I was busy sewing a skirt for a Wonder Woman cosplay that they're making for someone. And my husband turned to our friend, and he was just like, I think we got to make something that's our own, maybe something that's Witchblade inspired or something like that.
I see.
Yeah, and so they definitely want to try and create something there too through all of the processes that they learned while we were doing Metroid, while we were doing Mercy from Overwatch, while we were making Pyramid Head. Because now that they've found the right materials, because it's a lot of trial and error,
right?
Mostly error. And
well, that's something we're not familiar with here on the podcast. Everything we've ever tried has been totally successful, so that's something I can't relate to. But I am interested in terms of how you've come into this sort of, with no expectations. It sounds like, but now you're sort of into the culture a little bit, and it's kind of part of your identity. Would you say?
Yeah, I think so. It's so much fun. It's really a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to get to combine it with burlesque on top of it.
I see. Oh, yeah, I can imagine, especially in Korea, a country that's not exactly noted for self-expression. That must be interesting for you.
Yeah, it definitely is. It was fun when we were doing Comic-Con, but there was definitely some moments where we're like, all right, nope, you gotta tone that down. You cannot do splits wearing that in front of the kiddies. Not okay.
Family friendly, right? To some extent.
We have to be family friendly.
Huh. Well, yeah, I mean, we get a lot of flack from our fans because we're sort of a PG-13 related. We're PG-13 on the podcast, but a lot of fans want us to drop a lot of profanity. But we kind of toe the line as well, and we say, sorry, we're not going to do that, even if it costs us millions of fans. So, yeah. Well, so what's your latest cosplay project? What are you working on now? You said you did Metroid.
Yeah,
I know that was probably quite elaborate.
So for Comic-Con this year, we wanted to have 2 costumes. So we made Metroid and Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head was my idea. Then my husband wanted to do something really iconic and classic, and something that's really empowering. He's like, because you do burlesque, and that's supposed to be empowering for women. And so he's like, I want to make something cool that's also empowering for women. So he was trying, but also iconic. So he was thinking through, and he's like, I can't think of anybody more like iconic or who could represent burlesque than Samus. So
fantastic. Well,
yes.
We love to hear about women being empowered. As you know, Star Wars has a reputation for in some people's minds, it has a reputation for empowering women, with Princess Leia as being a strong feminine character, even going as back as the 70s. The head of Lucasfilm right now, Kathleen Kennedy, is a strong woman. But then on the other side, there's some people who kind of resist that, and they want Star Wars to sort of be a boys' club. Comment, have you faced any sort of that kind of interaction in fandom between men and women, gender roles? How is that, sort of been a part of your...
I'm lucky, I think. Over here, the weirdos that come all the way out to Korea and stay, they tend to be a little... There's a reason they're out here.
Right.
They're a little more like embracing of that kind of stuff, I think, for the most part. Doing Pyramid Head as a woman was really fun, and I had so many people be like, "Oh, it's so cool that there's a chick doing Pyramid Head." That was a lot of fun. I have heard occasionally, so I've got my little Overwatch hat on, but I don't play Overwatch. I watch my husband play it.
Okay.
I know the backstories of a lot of the characters. I love watching whenever they have a new one come out. And I love the game, and I love the principles that it stands behind. But I had somebody trying to be like, "You're not a real Overwatch fan. You're just trying to dress sexy like Mercy for the attention." Mern. I was like, no, the
haters, right? The haters.
Doesn't mean I don't love the game, I'm bad at video games, and frankly, I don't have time. I work 6 days a week.
Right. Well, it kind of reminds me of this the time when I was 5 years old, and my little sister dug out a stormtrooper from the sandbox and covered in sand, and she turned to me and she said, "Hey, Stormtrooper, is this Darth Vader?" And I snatched it out of her hands and said, "No, that's a Stormtrooper." And I was just so kind of offended, that my sister had an interest in Star Wars. And I think from that point on, I slowly learned over time that women are also part of this fan community. And I think a lot of men probably haven't realized that yet, even at the age of 70, sitting in their sofas eating pizza. So has that been your experience at all?
Yeah, no, I've definitely, I hate the term, fake nerds.
Right.
It seems to mostly be used when discussing women from what I've experienced. Oh, she's cute while she's playing a video game. She must not be legit then, or something like that. And it's just like, no, or yeah, sure, maybe she does it so she can, get paid on Twitch or whatever the hell. But that doesn't make her any less genuine about enjoying the game just because she's working the system well in her favor too.
Yeah, I mean, to be smart, right? To make money. I mean, to be fair, there probably are women who just do that to make money that don't have an interest in it. But I'm sure that for everyone that does that, there's 10 that actually are just genuinely interested in it. And so
exactly.
Yeah. People try to put people in boxes. I mean, for example, for us, we've had some fantastic interviews, and people have tried to put us in the box of a 60 Minutes or a 2020 Walter Cronkite style news, and we have resisted that as well. We're trying to cut across all lines and not be defined in that way. So
yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah. So I don't know how big a Star Wars fan you are. I mean, you've told me kind of face to face that you know about Star Wars. So if you could do an extreme cosplay from the Star Wars universe, money is no object at all. What do you think it would be?
I think I would try and probably do Boba Fett if I had to pick one. Or please don't hate me if I get this wrong. There's a titanium stormtrooper as well, right?
Right. That's from the new trilogy. She's called Captain Phasma, And yeah, she's a shiny titanium. That would be a great costume, I think.
So I think part of the thing, I love what Star Wars has done with film and what it stands for, but I'm not necessarily a diehard fan. And one of the things that made me have a little trouble connecting to it was the costumes, I couldn't really connect to them. I didn't find them as impressive as I did with other movies at that time that I was watching as a kid. So I think but I think that of the two things that I did like, if I had to pick something that was a little more on the intricate side or something a little bit less muted, was probably, Boba Fett or now the titanium
Captain Phasma.
Titanium Stormtrooper. That's right. I'm supposed to call her that, right?
Well, her name is Captain Phasma, I guess. Titanium
Captain
Stormtrooper
Phasma
works for me. We are fond of giving characters, other names as we think about them. Boba Fett is sort of iconic in that way, and especially now with the release of the new Star Wars television show, The Mandalorian, next year. I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot more opportunities for cosplay with that kind of character design. One of the more contentious costumes in the Star Wars universe, at least, in terms of cosplay, is the, dare I say it, lest I trigger our whole audience, the Slave Leia costume as it has been known in the past. I can't remember the 29-syllable politically correct term for it now offhand. I've had too much fermented blue milk tonight. But, the Slave Leia costume for a long time was sort of banal almost. People would wear that costume to conferences with no problem. But, over the last few years, especially I think with the Me Too movement and a lot of the problems in Hollywood with, the sexual abuse and harassment of actresses, people have definitely stepped forward, and that costume is a no-go nowadays. How do you feel about that?
I think that's kind of silly, to be honest. And I think that's how, how Leia felt. There was an interview where this, if I'm remembering correctly, there's this father and at some Q&A that she was at, and he was like, how am I supposed to explain this inappropriate attire to my little girl who wants to play with this doll? And she said something along the lines of, tell her a giant space worm made me wear it, and I didn't like it, so I killed him and took it off. Something like that. It's just...
That sounds like something Carrie Fisher would definitely say. I think I have heard that too. So,
yeah, Carrie Fisher just was like, get over it. Yeah, sometimes we look sexy.
Right. Okay,
right.
So there's been this Instagram channel in the last few weeks that's gotten a lot of traction on Twitter and Instagram. It's called Imreal Cosplay. We're hoping to actually have them on the podcast sometime soon. And basically, it's a couple. I think one of them, or maybe both of them, are photographers. And they are doing, shall we say, rather revealing photos where they are dressed up as Kylo Ren and Rey in fairly erotic poses. Have you seen this Instagram channel? No?
No, this is the first time I've looked at it. I think it's kind of awesome, though.
Now, how would you... Does this kind of fall into cosplay, do you think? Or is this a little bit beyond what normal cosplayers might think of as cosplay?
No, I think it counts. I mean, they're still making their own costumes, right?
Right, I assume so. So what are the critical parts of cosplay? I mean, in this case, I think they're doing something fairly, intense and salacious to try to get some followers for sure. But I think the images are well crafted.
Yeah, I think it's still very tasteful. Just because something, they're sexy doesn't necessarily mean trashy, and sexy doesn't necessarily mean bad either. And especially doing burlesque, that means a lot to me. Sex isn't bad.
No. Anything that makes me feel a little tingly down there, it's time to eat pizza and forget about it. Thank you very much.
If that's how you feel, we don't shame.
what is your main kind of thing that you look for with cosplay? Is it the crafting of the costume? Is it the taking of photos? Is it the going to the conference and seeing other people? What for you is sort of the quintessential aspect of it?
Making. I really like making the costumes. I mean, of course, a huge part of it is also, getting to walk around wearing that badass costume and having people go, "Whoa, that looks awesome." Especially when I get to wear a helmet, so like I get to just kind of because I learned like a few years back the term, introverted extrovert. Like, yeah, sure, I'll go to a con or I'll do a burlesque show, but at the same time, it's my own controlled space. It's so if you take me out of that element, then I'm like super shy and
I see.
Doing that mask cosplay, it's great because I don't have to like do the social part that I'm not so good at, but I get to have fun walking around in it. I think like a big part of it is the making of the costume. I know that a lot of people would say it's also being the character. Once you don your armor, your costume, your cloak. I just can't get out of my own headspace enough to really commit like that long term. I can if it's like for one act or something like that. But so like walking around all day, it's a little too extreme for my tastes.
You can kind of fake it, but you can't really believe it. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I always wanted to be one of those people that could.
Right.
I just can't, though.
Well, faking is an art all to its own, and that's kind of what we're all about here on the podcast. Is taking, what we know and what we enjoy, and making it a little bit lighthearted and a little bit more, not so serious. Do you find that's a tension in cosplay about some people maybe take it too seriously and suck the fun out of it as well?
Luckily, I haven't met any of those people that. I'll be like, "Oh, hey, Sam," at the con. They're like, "No, I'm Darth Vader. It's not how you talk to me."
Oh, right. Yeah. So that becomes role play, right? That's almost a different thing altogether, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so you said earlier that you didn't really connect necessarily with some of the costumes in the Star Wars universe, and I think I can see why. I mean, you're a very talented dancer, singer, performer, burlesque performer as well. You do a lot of different things, and some of those elements are not really present in Star Wars per se. But let's imagine that you get the ear of J.J. Abrams. We have had him on the podcast numerous times, by the way. So the next time he's on, I'll give him, whatever your recommendations are. He is directing Star Wars Episode 9, which I'm sure you're aware of. So imagine that you get to sit down with him for a beer and let him know what you'd like to see costume-wise for the next film.
Oh, God, geez, that's putting me on the spot. I have not had time to think on this.
We like to do that to people to show them that we're more in control than they are.
One of the things that I actually did like is that the women do tend to be covered up, but that doesn't take away from their character at all. Although I could never take Leia's hair seriously. I couldn't. But
you want some frosting with those cinnamon buns.
I know. I always thought teddy bear whenever I saw it. Little teddy bear. But one thing that I did like was how intricate like C-3PO's stuff was. If they could take that kind of those little gears, those little peaks here and there of those tiny little details that make it look like something else, or her, that sheen that was on her armor, that like having that kind of extra oomph to a main character, like a human character's armor, I suppose is the right way to say.
Right.
That I think would be especially if it was just, another badass woman. Come on, please. Thank you. We need more of them. I'd say like that would be my request is to do something like that for a human character, to put that kind of intricate detail in.
It's been great to have you on and talk a little bit about cosplay and the costumes in these kind of movies and beyond even. Going forward here for Halloween, do you have any plans for what you're going to dress up as this year?
Sadly, no. Usually I make it a point to take Halloween off.
I see. Okay. Well, if fans are interested in what you're doing there in Korea, you have a very different life over there, I know, but you're doing burlesque, you're doing singing, you're doing cosplay, a whole lot of other interesting things. If they want to find you, how can they do that?
Nellwyn.me is my website, and that's NELLWYN.me. That'll send you to my Facebook, my Instagram, my modeling portfolio if you're a photographer who's interested in working together. You can also look me up on Instagram, sparkle.fox. So it's pretty easy.
No, interesting. That's I don't know if you've seen The Last Jedi, but the Sparkle Foxes, the Crystal Foxes, played a very important role in the end of that film.
I really liked them. They were so cute.
Is that
I literally turned to my husband and I was like, it's lots of little me's.
Now, well, how about that as a cosplay idea? That would be incredible.
That could be fun.
It might take a few years, though. I think they worked very hard on those costumes for the foxes.
Yeah, probably.
So
that and leaving a trail of glitter behind everywhere that I go is,
it might get
probably
annoying,
gonna start
right?
to piss off the convention hosts.
No. We should try harder to be obnoxious and to make their life difficult. That's what Faking Star Wars always do when we go to conferences. So.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks so much. Our fans really appreciate you coming on, and you're welcome back anytime. So thanks a lot, Nell.
Thank you.
And we're back. Well, IG, we have a very special guest today in the studio with us. Do you know who it is?
I do not, Stormtrooper.
Well, it's somebody who has been writing for FakingStarWars.net for a number of years, giving our listeners and readers fiendish advice.
Kylo Ren?
No, it is none other than the Dark Lord himself, Emperor of the entire galaxy, Sheev Palpatine.
Oh, long time no see, Sheev.
Yeah, he likes to kind of moonlight as an advice columnist, and so we've asked our listeners to write in with some questions about Halloween.
All right.
Great. Well, go ahead, IG. Sheev only responds to things in a form of a question, so...
Oh, so it's like Jeopardy.
A little bit.
All right. So, okay, well, we've got 3 questions sent in by our listeners here. So the first one is, Dear Emperor, I am trying to think of a good costume for this year, but I am worried about triggering fans if I choose the wrong one. What costume can I choose that will be completely neutral and not affect anyone at all adversely? Signed, No Offense.
Dear No Offense, the dark side clouds all. Did you ever hear the story of little Billy the Wet Noodle, who tried to live his life in a bubble and not offend anyone? He died. He died a lonely, painful death. Don't be like Billy. Only then, at the end, will you understand. Halloween is about being offensive and evil. I suggest you dress up as Slave Leia, wearing rare rhino horn earrings and a fur hat made from the skin of Cecil the Lion.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Sheev. Huh. What did you think of that, IG? Cecil the Lion. Do you remember who that is?
That was the lion that was killed by that dentist, right?
Yeah, I didn't know Sheev knew about endangered species in our world, but I guess he does.
Yeah, I'm assuming he causes most of them.
Right. What do you think about Slave Leia? Do you find that offensive for you? Does that trigger anything in you?
Well, I don't know. Slave Leia with a fur hat, I think it kind of just ruins the effect of Slave Leia costumes.
Ah, yeah. Well, I am triggered every time I see Slave Leia. I mean, even though Carrie Fisher has now gone on to be one with the Force, I still find myself Googling old pictures of her.
All right. Dear Sheev, what kind of traps should I use to prevent children from trick-or-treating at my house? Signed, Stay Away.
Dear Stay Away, your feeble skills are no match for the power of the dark side. Without joining the Emperor, you will have to live in fear of child invaders. Join me, and with our combined strength, we will destroy the happy-go-lucky trick-or-treaters that bother you so incessantly. I suggest a flaming moat and flesh-eating bacteria be released. The Imperial Labs will furnish you with the latest technological advancements when you join the Emperor.
That sounds like sound advice.
Yeah, Sheev's always ready with something. Imperial Labs, I mean, has that come up in any of the books you've read about Star Wars, like scientific development labs for the Emperor?
Oh, sure. Like the Empire had loads of technological labs and companies making like various weaponry, and but just like any world, like they have a military-industrial complex.
Were there any weapons that were a little bit more sinister that we never actually saw, other than like the Death Star and stuff?
Yeah, well, the Death Star was obviously a big one, but like all of the TIE fighters came out of darn it, I forget actually the name of that company. But like, yeah, each of the fighters, all of the walkers, the AT-ATs, and that kind of stuff, all had companies that produced them.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Great. Well, you got one more question for Sheev, I think, today, right, IG?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, personally, I would have just gone with Rancor Pit. You know, like that always works. Yeah, it's simple, low tech. All right. So anyway, the last question is, Dear Palps, any ideas for the Star Wars Halloween special? Signed, Lucasfilm.
Dear hive of scum and villainy, the Emperor has been expecting you. I can feel your anger. There is only one way to appease the legions of nerds who are furious with you for destroying their dreams. You must bring back B. Arthur. Only then can you strike down the social media rage of thousands of neckbeards in a single blow.
Say it ain't so. B. Arthur, IG?
Well, I suppose if with a shovel you can get her back.
What is he even referring to?
I'd assume the Star Wars holiday special. But,
oh, right, that gem.
Yeah. Yes, so I'm guessing Lucasfilm wants to make a new Halloween special.
They must be trying to go back to their roots and what really worked in the past.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I would love to see another B. Arthur holiday special. That would be awesome.
Well, thanks to our fans who wrote in with questions for this Halloween edition of Ask Sheev. If you have more questions for the Dark Lord of the Sith himself, you can send them to me at Duperstorm or Willie Bobo at Faking Star Wars, and we'll read them in the next episode. Had you ever talked to Sheev Palpatine before, IG?
No, I haven't, actually. This is my first time with the Ask Sheev segment.
I thought he was very pleasant. You know, I think he wears like a Calvin Klein cologne or something. The whole studio is just filled now with an insouciant, delicious smell.
No, yeah, and he force lightning one of our interns. That was hilarious.
Yeah, well, he had it coming to him. So.
Yeah, that coffee was not hot.
Great. All right, and we're back. I have a special warning. I don't want to trigger anybody out there in our listening audience, but we have a very special guest. And up to now, Faking Star Wars has been a PG, child-friendly broadcast. However, just by necessity, we are going to have to slap a big old dangerous PG-13 on this episode because our guest comes to us from Shitty Star Wars on Instagram. That's your Instagram channel. Is that correct?
That is. I am the overlord of Shitty Star Wars.
Fantastic. Well, we just loved you so much, you know, we made a special exception to have you on because we don't want to be closed-minded.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. I'm glad I'm here.
So fans who may not follow you on Instagram, you have like 5,000 followers, I think, something ridiculous. They may not know exactly what you're doing. Can you just kind of give us an overview of, what kind of art you're doing and how you got into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Shitty Star Wars is a kind of a side project that I started a little over a year and a half ago. Genesis of it was essentially I was at work, and one of my closest friends at work was a huge Star Wars fan, and every day I was leaving a little doodle at his desk of a Star Wars character, and after a while he ended up having a stack of 20 or so of these, and he hung them up in the office, and he kind of encouraged me to create my own Instagram page. So Shitty Star Wars is the birth of me not being a great employee. So from there, the central concept of Shitty Star Wars is I'm an okay drawer and I'm not a great drawer, and I've kind of come to terms with that. And also I'm an okay Star Wars fan and not a huge Star Wars fan, and I'm okay with that too. So
so you sort of know your limitations.
Yeah, exactly. Shitty Star Wars is me coming to grips with mediocrity in every sense of the manner. So it's a fun experimentation. I think a lot of fan art out there, regardless of whether it be Star Wars or The Rings or Marvel, most fan art that you see is really good. And I don't think many people kind of shed light on the crappier side of fan art out there. And I felt like it was an unmet need in fandom.
Possibly maybe even an unfelt need until people saw what you were doing and they realized how awesome it was, huh?
Exactly. You'll be surprised how much you like shit until you see it.
That's great. Well, I mean, it's sort of the alcoholic version of Pibber, right? I mean, PBR beer has just such a special following, even though it's sort of like a blue-collar basic beer. It's not trying to be anything that it's not.
Absolutely. It's self-aware beer.
There you go. Well, we here at the podcast just embrace our mediocrity. We just revel in it. So it's nice to have confirmation that we're not the only ones.
Absolutely. The more of us there are, the better, honestly.
We're going to take over the world. So what has been your favorite shitty drawing that you've produced so far?
Oh, man. Honestly, I am a fan of my own work, and I know that sounds very bad, but I am. I think the first one I ever did of a shitty Palpatine is definitely in the top 5 for me, just because it took maybe 30 seconds for me to draw. Didn't really have any effort into it, but there's some kind of beauty in that as well, because it just kind of encapsulates, what Shitty Star Wars is all about. If you scroll to the very, very bottom of my page, you'll find that.
By the way, how can fans get to your page? I gave them your Instagram, but what is your actual website?
So I have my Instagram is at Shitty Star Wars, and then my website is shittystarwars.bigcartel.com, and there's a ton of merch on there. If you want to get a T-shirt that has me drawing Jabba the Hutt all over the shirt, you can get that. You can get a droid from the prequel sipping wine on a throw pillow. You can get hats. You can get mugs. I got a lot of really, really shitty and awesome stuff on there.
Great. Well, that Jabba the Hutt one is just fantastic. It reminds me a little bit of that Andre the Giant brand. I can't remember the name of that company.
Obey.
Yes. So it has sort of like a little bit of that feel, but it's just even more ostentatious. So,
I like that a lot. I think that would actually be a pretty awesome hat. You make that black and white and kind of put that as like a fake Obey. I actually really like that.
Great. Well, if you do take on that idea, I'm afraid you're going to have to give Faking Star Wars Radio 1% of the proceeds now that we've talked about it. So
it's okay. Yeah, I might have to. You're right.
Great. Well, so one of the other things you do on your Instagram page is you caption most of your drawings. Now, do you draw, like, typically in terms of like your process, do you actually draw something first and then caption it, or sometimes you end up with like a shitty caption and then draw the character to kind of go along with it? Like, what's your process with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost always been drawing first and then caption. I think, like, some of my early ones, the captions were actually handwritten into the picture. But I think that, as I was going on, it was easier for me to concept captions after I already had a drawing than trying to come up with something witty before having something to write about. You know what I mean?
Sure. So, I mean, is this skill that you have in terms of creating this art and captions, is this something that kind of came out of just a creative interest, or do you have any professional skills or formal art training that you're drawing from in any way?
Well, growing up, I was a big drawer. I think my mom still has a bunch of the books that I used to make as a kid that are pretty hilarious looking back on. But I always took art classes. I was never the best artist in the class, which is, very on brand for shitty Star Wars. But
sure.
Yeah, I took art all the way through high school. I was a writer through high school. And then even in my professional life, I do write a lot. So I do have a background in it, but I was never a super gifted artist by any means, but I at least had, the majority of my life dedicated to at least pursuing it.
But I mean, this isn't you moonlighting. I mean, you're not actually producing the cartoons and captions for like the New Yorker magazine or anything like that secretly, are you?
No, not at all. I mean, that would be pretty amazing if I was, though.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't tell anybody. We'll keep it under wraps here. So there's only 6 people listen to this, so.
Yeah, well, I appreciate all 6 of you listening right now.
Well, two of
Thank you.
2 of them are actually me. Just I made a different Twitter account and a different iTunes account to write comments on my own podcast. So,
after this, you'll have 7 because I'm sure that my mom's going to be listening to this as well. So.
Oh, very good. Does she have any shitty talents as well? What does she think of your shitty Star Wars abilities?
I think my mom might be one of the biggest fans of shitty Star Wars, to be honest with you. I always get a text from her, when I post something new, and she tells me how funny it is. I think actually my mom and my dad too, they both kind of have a dark, twisted sense of humor, which I think comes through in a lot of, my humor. So, I think they get a kick out of it as well.
So they kind of passed on some shitachlorians to you, I guess, to give you these abilities and talents, huh?
I think I got a little too much shitachlorians.
Great.
Yeah.
So have you ever had any fans or other creators that are in the Star Wars world? You mentioned some of the other fan art that, I would agree with you, tends to be very high quality, very shiny, very kind of constructed for the cinematic elements of Star Wars. Have you ever, had fans or creators react or criticize your work?
Honestly, the reception has been overwhelmingly positive of this account, which originally, when I started this thing, I thought that I was going to ruffle a lot of feathers in the Star Wars community, and I kind of
we don't know anything about that. We've never had that problem here on the podcast of ruffling feathers.
I'm sure. But I think a lot of people, a lot of what I hear is that people think it's great that I'm kind of poking fun at fandom. To a certain extent. And I find it hilarious when anyone, regardless of, how cool or how lame something might be, is so passionate about something. There is something kind of funny about being so passionate about, things that we, personally aren't really involved in. But just, loving a franchise or loving an IP.
One of the ways we've sort of put it here on the podcast is that we love it too much to take it too seriously.
Absolutely.
That has created a lot of conflict, and I'm sure you're aware of some of the flame wars that go on amongst fans and debates between some people who hate Disney, love what Disney's done with Star Wars. I mean, there's a lot of different age groups who either grew up with Star Wars as children or have come into it later. I myself grew up watching the original trilogy. I'm actually old enough. I actually wrote the original screenplays to the trilogy and saw them produced in my lifetime. So where are you in terms of Star Wars fandom? Are you more of an OT person, prequel trilogy, sequel trilogy fan?
So my exposure to Star Wars was in the mid-'90s when they did the re-release of the original trilogy, and I saw it in theaters. And as a kid, I was fanatical about Star Wars. Like I had tons of the figurines and, all the merch that came along with that. And of course, when the prequels came out, I was all about it too. Now, me as a fan, as an adult now, I think the original trilogy is untouchable when it comes to any of it. I think the prequels, like there's some good ideas just buried in a lot of, poor execution, I think. And the most recent movies I have a lot of mixed feelings about.
They certainly have provoked a lot of debate. Have you found more inspiration for your art in the prequel or sequel or OT?
Mostly in the OT. I do like to kind of span across all three because there is so much fodder out there for what, I can draw inspiration from. I think the prequels, especially if you're on Reddit, like prequel memes, I think that is like a very, trotted area when it comes to satire.
Low-hanging fruit,
so it's
as
not
we
that
say.
I avoid that, but I also am aware that that's where, a lot of people are spending their time.
Given the fact that people are so obsessive about Star Wars, and now, I mean, people are not only fans of the movies, but they're fans of the people who have even been involved in the movies. I know we're all thinking right now about John Williams, who is in the hospital. I haven't heard the latest updates on his health. But thinking about some of the classic artists like Ralph McQuarrie or is it Doug Chiang, I think, who is responsible for the design on the prequel trilogy? Who are some of your favorite Star Wars artists? Do you draw any inspiration from them, or do you kind of try to stay out of imbibing in what they produce?
I try to stay out of it, and to be completely honest with you, from a fandom level, I'm more of a passive fan than I am an active fan. I don't really dive too deep on who made what and who shot this. Obviously, I do feel for John Williams. I do hope he's okay. I think he's an incredible composer. I'm also a huge music fan, so the music of Star Wars has always been incredible. Up until maybe the last couple ones that Disney produced. I feel like the score of Star Wars is so iconic. You could mumble it to, someone halfway around the world and they know exactly what you're talking about. So I do hope that John Williams is doing okay. I think he's a fantastic artist, and obviously I think that's a huge part of what makes Star Wars Star Wars.
So since you're a little bit more of a passive fan, you like to eat your pizza and stroke your neck beard in private, I suppose. We sort of are a little bit of both. Some of us are a little bit more secretive here at Faking Star Wars. Others of us are a little bit more outspoken. Besides Faking Star Wars, though, what are some of the other Star Wars fan creators out there that you've been exposed to or that you've enjoyed?
This is kind of my first foray into this entire realm. I think that you guys obviously are some of my favorite people that I've met through this community. And what's interesting is a lot of the people that I've been in contact with through Shitty Star Wars, a lot of them are aspiring musicians, they're aspiring filmmakers. I think that what I tapped into is not necessarily just Star Wars fans. I think there are a lot of people that, identify and kind of connect with that, I don't want to call it mediocrity, but, that striving for pursuing a creative field and trying to make the best of the talents that you have and seeing how far they can take you. So I think that's been the most interesting thing of this whole thing. it's kind of seeing those kind of creators out there.
Well, I think we can call a spade a spade. I mean, I can't tell you how many shitty musicians we've had on the podcast and other people trying to produce Star Wars content that are very, very shitty at what they're doing. So, I mean, I really appreciate you taking that extra step and just calling it what it is. And we tend to be fairly diplomatic, but really when it comes down to it, I mean, we all are pretty shitty at what we're doing. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm using a Radio Shack set of walkie-talkies actually to record this right now. So,
and I'm using the gaming headset, so we're on the same page, brother.
Great. So, aside from just the Star Wars property, do you see yourself maybe shitting up any other iconic franchises in the future that you might be a fan of?
I've dabbled with this a lot. Like I said before, I think that fandom is hilarious, and I think that anyone that takes something too seriously is hilarious. So I thought about doing. Last year, I was very, very close to starting an account called Shitty Potter and just doing, horrible drawings of the Harry Potter franchise. I've thought about doing Game of Thrones, but just calling it just Game of Shit.
There you go. Or Game of Porcelain Throne. Game of Porcelain Throne. There you go.
I think that, if I do something like that, I think I would open it up, maybe call it Shitty Fandom. And have it be a little bit more broad than shitty Star Wars. But it's definitely something I've thought about.
Very cool. Well, if we can assist you in any way in the future, please let us know. We are big fans.
Absolutely.
So one of the questions that we always get when people write in on Twitter is, I don't know if you've seen my Twitter account, Storm Duper. That's at DuperStorm, actually, on Twitter. But I've gone back and forth with Matt Martin, who you may know is involved in the Lucasfilm Story Group. And he recently got a tattoo of a porg, I think on his leg. And I couldn't be outdone by somebody at Lucasfilm, so I actually got the Kylo Ren, pectoral porg, full body porg tattoos on each pec. Do you have any shitty Star Wars tattoos, or would you get one in the future?
I think I don't have any right now. I do have tattoos, but I think that that's actually a pretty good idea. And I've actually talked to a couple friends of mine. I told them, you can get a tattoo gun for $30 on Amazon. I actually sent them the link. I was like, if you want me to come in there, do some tattoos for you, shitty ones, never done it before. But you never know.
Great. Tattoo guns aren't expensive. So, I mean, it's really simply a matter of getting some ink and going to town. You already have the drawings. So if you'd be interested in working in the future on kind of a promotion for shitty Star Wars tattoos, I'd be happy to work with you on that.
Absolutely. If you want me to give you some shitty Star Wars tattoos too, like I'm not shy. If you want, left butt cheek, right butt cheek,
great,
bottom of your foot, whatever you want to do.
I mean, just as long as you've never tattooed before, like you're a total novice and you have no idea what you're doing, right?
Absolutely. You know where my drawing skill is. Just drop that down 60, 70%, and that's probably where my tattoo skill is.
So you're basically the Ryan Johnson of shitty tattoo artists.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. I'll even write a cheesy joke in there too.
So thinking about Ryan Johnson and the new movies, one of the things that's so interesting about fandom now on social media is this idea of finding leaks. And I know you've got guys like Mike Zeroh and making Star Wars something. I can't remember the name of that site, but I think they find leaks as well that are fake. But some people, have really gotten obsessed with this. And we actually at FakingStarWars.net are given leaks very frequently. They're usually just kind of scene descriptions. Do you think, in the future when we get these leaks, you'd be able to sketch them up in like a sufficiently shitty manner to throw people off? So, yeah, I mean, guess what I mean is so that they look shitty, they look fake, but then they're actually legit. So it's a little bit of like a switcheroo. And then when the film comes out, people are like, "Oh my gosh, faking Star Wars was right all along," and then they'll just shit themselves.
Absolutely. As long as they shit themselves, I'm on board.
Okay, great. Well, we have leaks coming in, almost every day. I mean, they're as common as pipe bombs are in the mail if you're a Democrat in America right now. So.
Oh man, yeah. Well, let's see what happens. I would love to, be your courtroom artist for whatever leaks you might have.
So, what advice could you give aspiring people out there who aspire to be shitty and who maybe have some drawing ability? What advice would you give to them to get started and really craft a identity and channel around their art?
I would just say, don't try to be anyone else. I think it's an incredibly cliche thing to say. I want to kick my own ass for saying it, but it is true.
I'll do that for you.
I think, yeah, I think that why I found some success here with Shitty Star Wars is I know the stretch of my ability. I know when I stretch my ability what that's going to look like, and for me, usually that's when I'm trying to draw people because they end up turning into these, hills have eyes looking monsters. But I would just say, work on your craft. Obviously, I think, practice with anything, you're going to get a lot better. And there is something really nice about, finding that comfort zone, understanding what your style is. And, I don't think it takes a lot to be a shitty artist. And you can put that on my tombstone.
Drawn shittily, I hope.
Please, yes, with a ballpoint pen.
It's my understanding that you possibly might have received a question on your Instagram from Willie Bobo. Is that correct?
Yes, he asked me, do you outsource work to Napoleon Dynamite? Me and Napoleon go back, I don't know, about 10 years now. I helped actually train him, believe it or not, as an artist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he does help me here and there. I taught him everything that he knows, from his fashion sense to the way that he woos women, his dance moves. He learned a lot from me. So I'm honored that, Bobo actually identified that connection.
Yeah, well, he's a pretty keen consumer of pop culture media, so it's very hard to put something over on good old Willie. So
yeah, I could tell.
Great. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell our fans out there? This is your first appearance. I hope this is something we can continue and we can collaborate on other projects in the future. You might be aware that we also have a T-shirt site where we sell designs that we put together. They're very different from yours, but I think there's room for collaboration in the future.
I would love to do more things with you guys.
Well, we're happy to have you as a sort of friend of the site, for lack of a better term at this point. But is there anything you'd like to say to our fans out there who may not have heard of you, how they can find you again, your different profiles out there in social media?
Absolutely, yeah. If you want to check out my page, I'm at shitty_star_wars. On Instagram. I do have my merch site as well, which is shittystarwars.bigcartel.com, where you can find all my shitty merch. I like to call it the shittiest shopping experience in the galaxy. I think you will agree with me on that.
Are you going to have any shitty sales before Christmas?
I will probably be doing a sale around Black Friday. So if you're looking to get some shitty merch for your friends, that might be the time to do it.
Very good. Okay. Is there any questions you have for us here at Faking Star Wars? Being somebody who's kind of consumed our media and come into as a fan, but now is actually kind of collaborating or a part of what we do here.
Yeah, I mean, how do you guys feel? A big part of what I do is poking fun at fandom, and I think you guys do a great job of that as well. How has your experience been with the Star Wars fan community, over the years of you guys working on this?
Well, I've been hospitalized 3 times in the last 6 months. I have,
Wow.
I have to pay a professional security brigade basically to protect my house and workplace 24/7. I'm telling you, man, I've had fans throw pizza at my car. I've had fans throw pizza at my children. I've had fans even try to suffocate my dog with pizza. So it has been a pretty intense experience. We have made all kinds of enemies just by trying to be fun and silly. And then the times when we try to get serious, people think we're hilarious. So basically, we've failed on all levels to engage our audience. We've made all kinds of enemies, and we've produced nothing good for the universe. So
That's incredible. But you are missing the silver lining in all of this.
what's that?
And well, you talk about how people are constantly throwing pizza at you. But if I'm not mistaken, you're saying that you guys staying completely off of pizza and blue milk. So really, maybe it's not a bad thing that they're trying to kill your dog with pizza and throwing pizza at you and your family, because actually they're trying to feed you.
Yeah, we try to tell ourselves that at times, but I'm telling you, you haven't known pain until somebody has slapped you in the face with an extra large pepperoni.
I haven't experienced yet, but now that you mention it, I have seen a lot of people running after me with boxes of pizza recently.
Yeah. I mean, one of the problems with doing a site like this is that everything you say gets taken out of context, and everything you say also gets taken really, really personally. We've had people who actually even worked on the podcast, or not on the podcast, but worked on the site, who just because we didn't include their specific, background of alien creature that was their absolute favorite in one of our articles, they actually left the site in tears that we didn't make fun of that particular alien. They called us, alienist and, all kinds of problems. So this is something that doesn't go away. We're aware of it. We do have some support, some psychological counseling that we've taken as part of our health plan that we offer to all our employees. So that's been very helpful.
Amazing. Well, if you have any recommendations, let me know.
Great. I mean, it's an ongoing process, navigating the intense, basically excruciating world of being a fan of Star Wars.
Especially the last movie was pretty excruciating.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I still find tears and dirty razor blades from when I was trying to cut my wrist after seeing that movie for the 27th time in the theater. So
I don't even have wrists anymore. They're just gone. I just have nubs.
Well, that's why your drawings are so shitty. You're just clutching the pencil. So
exactly. I have a claw actually that I put the pen in, and I draw with the claw.
Very good. Well, it's been such a pleasure having you on, and I hope that we can get you back on the podcast soon. So thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Galactic News. Well, as our fans know, Halloween is right around the corner, and that means candy. And given how busy fans are watching all this new Star Wars content, it can sometimes be difficult to find time to practice proper dental hygiene. We here at Faking Star Wars Radio are advocates for proper dental hygiene. We work with the Galactic Dental Association in many projects trying to improve dental hygiene. And in light of that, we are going to interview Dr. Wilhelm Bobofreud, who is a psychologist and psychiatrist by trade, but also a hobbyist in the field of xenodentistry. Dr. Wilhelm Bobofreud, it's wonderful to have you back. How are you?
Glad to be back, Stormtrooper. How are you?
Oh, very good. I'm looking forward to enjoying all that Star Wars holiday candy.
Well, I have bought 3 separate exhibits for you. Dealing with the various species of teeth that you can see in Star Wars creatures.
Now, tell us again, Wilhelm, you are an expert in xenodentistry, is that right?
Well, I am an expert in, of course, psychotherapy, but my passion has always been xenodentistry.
Interesting. Just a jack of all trades. So tell us, you've brought in a few samples, I guess, of different species teeth for us to look at today?
Oh, indeed. So the first one here, I shall place before you. Hold on a second. All right.
Oh,
now,
dear God, what's that?
Well, if you will see before me on this fine cushion, you have a set of serrated teeth.
What could those possibly belong to?
Well, why don't you pick one up and let me know what you think?
It feels slimy and
Yes, but you will notice the finely serrated edges.
That's right. They're very prominent.
Right, and you will notice the lack of variety. There are no cuspids or bicuspids or anything. They are all very similar, much like a shark's teeth.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes. Well, you didn't cut yourself, did you?
No, fortunately not.
That is good, because they are coated with a deadly poison.
Oh, dear. Oh.
So
you might want to mention that to someone next time.
Yes. Well, these are actually the teeth of a Hutt.
A Hutt, like Jabba the Hutt?
Yes. Actually, they are Jabba the Hutt's teeth.
Really? I didn't know he had teeth.
Oh, well, he suffered from a rare gum disease due to a lack of flossing.
Is that right?
Yeah, so he had to have all of his teeth removed, and I have obtained this fine set right now.
So these are the actual teeth that were removed from Jabba the Hutt before Return of the Jedi or A New Hope, I guess, were filmed.
Indeed, well, they look like the teeth of a shark. In fact, the Hutts are known on Tatooine as sand dolphins. When they walk about the land, their cumbersome slug-like body is quite inefficient. However, their natural habitat is actually below the sand dunes. They swim and leap and play much like the dolphins do, devouring all the myriad of creatures that walk the dunes.
Interesting. Wow. So has this been on display in a place like Hutt World, for example, where you can play with the Hutts and watch them do tricks?
Well, Hutt World was shut down after one of the Hutts accidentally leaped, played, and ate one of the customers.
And the trainers,
yes.
I'm sure, I mean, it's probably a pretty dangerous job training the Hutts to do tricks for sand treats.
They're very resistant to the training. Mostly they try to dominate and rule the joint.
Interesting. Wow. The things we didn't know, Dr. Wilhelm Bobofreud.
Yes, well...
and it's interesting how much you can tell about a species from his teeth.
Oh, indeed, yes. Would you like to see the next exhibit?
I just can't wait.
Okay, now first, before I show you this, I will need you to put on these protective goggles.
Protective goggles? Whatever for?
Just trust me on this one, okay?
They're not explosive teeth, are they?
No. Otherwise, you would need some other sort of protective suit or a protective ball. Just the goggles.
All right, let me get them on here.
And you can put your pants back on.
Okay.
I have here contained in this case a Jawa skull.
A Jawa skull. I've never seen one before.
No, very few people have. In fact, the Jawas mask their appearance at almost all times.
Interesting.
Yes, and of course the reason for this is the fact that the Jawas have the most brilliant smile in the galaxy.
Do they really? You wouldn't have guessed that.
Oh, indeed, it is quite astonishing.
So what can you
are
tell
you ready?
us? Yes, let's see it here.
Okay, so I shall open the case now. Please stand back and prepare yourself. All right, opening now.
Wow.
Yes, I thought you would appreciate it. Now, if you take, obviously it is difficult to look directly into the teeth, but if you take a look, they're radiant brilliance.
Oh, it's like the sun.
Exactly, yes. The radiant brilliance is a natural bioluminescence that can outshine even the brightest natural or artificial lights.
That's amazing. Comes in very useful.
Now, if you'll take a look, you'll see that the excellent care taken with these teeth. They've been brushed regularly and flossed. Notice the perfection.
This junk trader really had a lot of time for his hygiene.
Oh, the Jawas are well known for their dental hygiene.
They are a fastidious species.
They are. They really are.
Wow. Wow. I mean, how much would a case with teeth like this run, on eBay, for example?
Well, I don't know, but they could potentially solve the energy crisis.
This is like coaxium, except just in dental form.
Exactly, yes.
Who
So,
knew?
okay, are you ready for the last exhibit?
Boy, I don't know how we're going to possibly top that one, Dr. Wilhelm Bobofreud, but I am excited to see what you brought us.
Now, underneath this cloth over here, I have 2 human skulls.
Human.
Yes. Well, humans are in the galaxy, so they count.
Okay.
All right. They may be less exotic than you're used to. Now, I will reveal them now. You will notice standard human skulls, but take a look at the teeth.
Interesting. They don't look quite like mine.
Well, but do you notice that they are all cracked and broken?
Yeah, what happened here?
Well, you see, these were 2 Star Wars nerds who had a big disagreement over the merits of The Last Jedi.
Is that right?
Yes,
so
indeed.
Did they try to solve
Yes.
their dilemma through, a walnut eating competition without taking them out of the shells?
No, I believe it was more a baseball bat and a lead pipe.
Oh dear. Wow. Well,
I'm not sure how the argument ended or who won, but this is the world we live in.
ugh, it's a harsh, cruel dental world out there.
Oh, indeed it is.
Great. Well, Dr. Wilhelm Bobofreud, it has been wonderful having you on the podcast. Thank you for bringing in your dental samples, and we wish you a very happy Halloween.
You too, may it be spooktacular.
Thank you. Well, we do have time. I think, Teeb, do you have time to play a second game with us today?
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Well, I think both of you have played this game once. This is a game of my own devising called Star Wars or Not. And what's going to happen is I am going to play, I think we got 6 examples today. I'm going to play 6 clips of audio for you that may or may not be from the Star Wars saga films, or, I mean, I don't want to say just saga films. It could be some of the other films that Disney has created in the last few years. I'd even go so far as to say they could come from the animated series or other films, but basically Star Wars properties. If you can correctly identify whether they're a Star Wars property or not, you'll get a point. And if you can name exactly what property they come from, whether it's Star Wars or not, you'll get a bonus point. Pretty simple, right?
Sure.
Okay. Well, here's the first one, and because this is our Halloween episode, every sound is kind of a spooky, weird sound, so if that gives you any help. All right, here's the first one. Any guesses there?
Well, last time with IG, you played some backwards.
Yes.
So, have you slowed this down at all?
No, I haven't altered this at all. This is the complete, unadulterated recording.
Okay.
I'm going to go not Star Wars, and I know that from somewhere,
Okay.
I agree.
but I've heard that before, but I'm really struggling to place it.
So how do you guys want to do this? Do you want to play as a team, or do you want to kind of lock in your answers first, and then we can compare scores at the end, and the loser can have to wash my feet?
I like locking in.
Okay, all right. So
we can
locking
take
your
one
votes.
foot that way.
Teeb, Star Wars or not?
I say no.
IG?
Yeah, also no.
Okay, well, you both have a point. That is not Star Wars. Any guesses where it might come from?
Sounds like an introduction from an old 50s or 60s movie, like an old monster movie or alien UFO type movie.
Okay.
Yeah,
IG?
something like where some spaceship is descending or something like that. I've heard that effect before.
Like War of the Worlds, like the original.
Those are all good guesses, but this is a tough one to start out with. Have you ever heard of the German director Werner Herzog?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, one of my favorite films that he made is a documentary called Encounters at the End of the World, where he goes to Antarctica and explores down there. And this is actually the sound of them recording the seals and snow lions or whatever they are underneath the ice. And that's the noise they make as they're navigating through the frigid waters.
Oh, yeah, the leopard seals. Oh, cool.
Yeah, unearthly sounds there in Antarctica.
Wow.
Yeah. Have you seen that movie, Teeb?
No, I thought I'd seen all his. No. Is it?
No.
You said it was a documentary, though?
Yeah, it's one of his more recent documentaries, and I'm kind of obsessed with Antarctica as it is, so because I have such a cold heart, it's a natural fit for me. Yeah, this is a great documentary. I recommend it to anybody who has a lot of time on their hands.
So not me.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yep. All right, well, here's number 2. All right, we'll ask IG to go first this time. What do you think, IG, on that one?
I'm going to go with yes on that is Star Wars.
Okay. Teeb?
Can I hear it one more time?
Sure. So IG said yes, Star Wars. How about you, Teeb?
I'm a conformist, so I think I'll go with ID on this one.
Oh, you guys are so boring.
I might be mistaken, actually, in retrospect, but could be.
You want to change your vote, IG?
Yes. That actually sounds like a bit out of Jurassic Park or something.
Okay. So you're going to change to
I
no?
am, because I was thinking, Rancor Pit or something, but then there's something wrong with the growling and the sort of sound of people getting like killed or something like that's on there.
Okay. Well, IG, you're down by 1 point now because that is from a Star Wars movie. Congratulations, Teeb. For a chance to get a bonus point, any idea what scene or movie it's from?
I was listening to the music and I couldn't place the music. I would say Return of the Jedi, though. If I have to guess, Return of the Jedi.
Okay. It's not Return of the Jedi, so you don't get the bonus point. Sorry.
Okay.
It is the scene in the Imperial cargo ship where Han and Chewie and Rey and Finn are trying to escape the dreaded Rathtars.
Rathtars. Yeah.
You're
and
actually
he gets
hearing the
eaten, and one
sound
guy
of
gets
the
eaten.
Rathtars, and you're hearing the sound of Han throwing one of the members of Kanji Club into the Rathtar's mouth.
Well, he was hungry.
He was very hungry. I thought the Rathtars were cute.
They probably start off cute.
Did you know that those
Their mom
Rathtars
was.
were entirely practical, 100% practical? They actually went to Beijing, China, to get some Rathtars direct from the zoo there that they've been breeding successfully for many years.
Well, I always heard the Rathtars didn't breed in captivity, so that's fascinating.
Well, anything's possible in China. Except for a successful Star Wars movie. So,
Yes.
All right. Number 3, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. We know that one.
Okay, so Star Wars, right?
No.
Yeah. Also, I'm going to go with no on that.
Okay, you're both correct. It's not a Star Wars movie. Would you like to venture a guess what it is?
There's no guess. It's T-Rex.
Yeah, that's Jurassic Park, definitely.
All right, very good. So the score is Teeb with 4 and IG with 3. It's a close game here with a few left to go. Yeah, you know that I was reading a little bit about how they produced that sound, and the sound engineer on Jurassic Park said they actually tried to make the T-Rex bull cry a little bit higher pitched than you might otherwise expect, because they said that there was some kind of cognitive dissonance of seeing this gigantic beast with a little bit of a higher pitched noise. So,
I thought they were going for the Godzilla screech.
yeah, I think it evokes that. So, all right, here's the next one. Not much to work with there.
I think that's Star Wars. I have a specific scene in mind.
Yeah, I'm playing the game, so I'll say I think it's Star Wars too.
You guys are correct. So the score is 5-4. That is from Star Wars movie. Any guesses? Lock in your decision now, so you're not influenced.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with it's Dagobah.
Dagobah.
I'm gonna go with the trash monster, the
Yeah, it's the other one.
Gargalot or
The
whatever.
Dianoga?
Dianoga.
Yeah, the one I mispronounced last time.
Yes.
Yeah, the D.I. Nagar.
Whatever.
You added the R on the end there. Yeah.
Dianoga was like, hey, there's no
Well-
R there. That's just bad writing.
I'm sorry, guys. Lies, deceptions. IGNT will not know the truth. That is the sound of Borgullet getting ready to suck the brain out of what's his name? Do you remember?
The pilot.
Yes. Yeah, from Rogue One.
From
Yes.
Rogue One.
Apu.
Yeah.
Apu.
Body Rook.
Yes.
Yep. So that's one of my favorite scenes in Rogue One because it's just so out there and so different from the rest of the movie. You know, and the sound effects are really cool as well. So,
Yeah.
has anyone dressed up as Borgullet for Halloween or possibly for some erotic fantasies?
My ex-wife.
All right.
Oh,
there you go. Nice.
Not intentionally.
Nice. Now, did she also suck? Did you also lose your mind as a result of that, Teeb?
That's the only damn thing I have left.
Oh my goodness! All right. Well, we do offer attorney services on the podcast. Better call them all. So if you are in need of that, just give us some details after recording the podcast. We'll try to help you out there.
He's half the man he used to be, so I'm good.
All
and now
right.
he's more of a machine.
Yes.
Here's the next one.
You one more time.
Yeah, it was really short.
It was short. Yeah, I'm trying to avoid giving it away by playing too long a clip here.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say Star Wars.
I'm going to go with not Star Wars.
Okay, well, we have an even tie now at 5 points because that is not from a Star Wars film. Congratulations, IG. Yeah, so I'll give you a chance to guess what movie it might be from.
God, I don't know. It could be like any slasher flick or...
You're on the right track.
I have a guess.
Go ahead.
Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones. No, actually, this is from the Kiefer Sutherland classic horror film, Tremors.
Oh!
Yes, this is the scene where he coaxes the, tremor monster into shooting itself off of a cliff.
Was Kiefer Sutherland in that? Or wasn't that
No.
Kevin Bacon?
Pardon?
Wasn't that
Tremors
Kevin Bacon?
I'm sorry, Kevin Bacon. Did I say Kiefer
Sutherland.
Sutherland?
You
Yeah.
very painfully said Kiefer
Wow,
Sutherland.
I'm exposing my ignorance. I'm making it utterly clear that I've never seen that movie.
I mean, I haven't seen them all, so I'm just saying that. The Kiefer Sutherland Tremors. Tremors 8.
I kind of want to see that one now. I really want to see that
Tremors 8.
version.
My career's
Yeah, well,
dead.
we are interviewing the guy who's responsible for the derp fake, so I could ask him to do that as his next project.
Yes,
talk to
yeah,
him,
there
so.
you go. Put him in Tremors. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Kevin Bacon, classic scene, of course, where the tremor monster goes off the cliff. I thought you guys might go for the Jabba the Hutt death scene with that. Listen to it one more time, you can hear how similar they are.
No, that's what I was thinking. It was that high-pitched squeal that made me think that it probably wasn't, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's like too much screaming at the same time to be the
The Rancor
image
scene.
that I'm familiar with.
Right. Okay, we got time for one more, I think.
One more. Not Star Wars.
Okay. IG?
I'm gonna go. That is Star Wars.
All right. Well, Teeb, you're correct. You're now in the lead, 6-5. That is not a Star Wars film. Do you have a guess about what it comes from?
Oh, God.
It seemed a bit obvious there. It sounded like lightsabers, but yeah.
At the end, it switched, though. At the end, there was a definitive, like kind of almost like a Superman kind of poppy music that you wouldn't expect from John Williams. But what is it?
Yeah.
It's definitely, can I say it's definitely sci-fi?
You know, that's an interesting question. Hard actually to decide if it was sci-fi or fantasy. Yeah, I guess it's loosely sci-fi.
Loosely sci-fi. Now that just makes it even more confusing.
Well, this movie was hopelessly confused when it came out in 1987.
Not The Last Starfighter.
No, it's not. It's actually He-Man with Dolph Lundgren.
Oh my God! Yes, yeah. I just watched Masters of the Universe like a couple of weeks ago. Yes, they did. They used a lot of Star Wars kind of rip-off stuff for it.
Yes, they did. And actually, this is the scene kind of near the end where Dolph Lundgren is saving Julie from some of these Masters of the Universe that have invaded our reality. That's why I was kind of balking at being sci-fi, because Masters of the Universe I would not call sci-fi, but then they made a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, it was almost sci-fi when they marked like the very beginning and end scenes are like very sci-fi, and then the middle is just them running around like
Escape New York.
Freaking high school. It's
Can I ask, IG, are you on your medication? What were you doing watching this film?
Seriously.
I was over at a mutual friend of ours' place watching bad movies.
Okay.
Well, that was a good one to
qualifies.
watch. Yeah. You should have watched Super Mario Brothers too. I mean, if you're that much of a glutton for punishment.
We watched Theodore Rex. We're all like half in the bag fans, so we picked up a bunch of their suggestions, and oh my God, that movie was horrible.
Can you name the actress who played Julie? This may come as a surprise to you.
Oh, it's the Courtney Cox.
Yes, you're right. I'll be there for you, Courtney. I had no idea she looked that good.
That's the only reason to watch that movie. That is
Right.
the only reason in the world to watch that movie. You can watch it fast forward. You know what I mean? It's like, there she is. There she is.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm done. That's the whole movie. It's
There
terrible.
was really no reason to watch that movie.
Terrible.
The beginning and end, they nearly. If they had, I mean, it was a canon film, so like not a huge budget and not known for great quality. But if they had kept the beginning and the end kind of and done the middle like that, which I'm sure they didn't have the budget for, it actually would have been quite good.
Huh. Well, I don't think I'm gonna watch it anytime soon. But the score is 6-5, which means Teeb, IG has to wash and suck your toes. How do you feel about that?
I live in Florida, but I'm not into that. I'm good, man. You're off the hook.
Well, we do have a bonus question for you. This one will be worth 1,000,000 points. So, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, here it is.
What the? Oh, that sounds like something from like Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, it's Star Wars with a laugh track, but I don't know what the hell that's. It's definitely the prequel. Wait, no, it's not the prequel. Let me hear it again. Let me hear it again. I see what you did, you sneak. That's a tauntaun.
It is a tauntaun, but it's not from a Star Wars movie.
Isn't it from one of the Star Wars TV specials? Not the holiday special, but
no, it's from a talk show.
A talk show?
Yeah.
Talk show?
This
is
like the
Letterman?
Legendary Saturday Night Live actor Bill Hader on the Conan O'Brien show doing his impression of a dying tauntaun.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
Many people don't know that Bill Hader actually was involved in the creation of BB-8's voice.
Yeah, he was one of BB-8's. Yeah.
And he's a massive, massive Star Wars fan, so I thought I'd pull that one out for you. Definitely a creepy noise, but maybe in a little bit more of a lighthearted way. So
I swear I thought it was Urkel at first, though. Especially with the laugh track. And then I was like, now I think I won't be able to unknow that Urkel sounds like a Tauntaun, or that Tauntauns sound like an Urkel.
An Urkel, yeah. Well, it was a lot of
man.
fun. What's your favorite creepy noise in the Star Wars universe?
Minox?
Good one. Yeah.
Like if I heard that, like, like if I was just sitting out here on my porch with my shotgun and I heard that, I'd be like, hello, time to go kill some Minox, because that would scare the crap out of you. Let's face it, 3 o'clock in the morning, you heard that noise? Because that would just scare the poodoo out of you.
Cool. What about you, IG? Which creepy noise from Star Wars would you put on repeat in your living quarters?
The sound of Gungans. Terrifying.
What sound does a Gungan make?
A racist one.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's for sure. That is maybe the scariest sound in the universe. So, very good. All right, guys, thanks for playing. And, if this is successful, we're actually going to release the home version in a few weeks. So,
awesome.
Yeah. Well, IG, what a great Halloween episode. This is our first Halloween episode we've done.
And hopefully our last.
Yes, well, that will be the case if we don't get any new listeners, possibly. So tell the fans where they can find us.
You can find us at Faking Star Wars on Twitter and Instagram, and at Faking Star Wars, and on Facebook at facebook.com/RealFakingStarWars.
And as always, you can follow me at DuperStorm. If you are a Patreon supporter, you can support us on Patreon as low as $1 a month at the Padawan level, and we are always creating new prizes for that. So please don't hesitate. We are giving away some great stuff for the Patreon. So if you want to submit a question for us on Twitter, use the hashtag FSW Radio, and we'll read it in the next episode. You can also get fantastic Faking Star Wars t-shirts and other gear on teepublic.com/user/Faking Star Wars. You can find a great selection of t-shirts available, all sizes and shapes and colors, at reasonable prices. Unless your name is Uwe Boll, in which case it's free. As always, stay tuned to FakingStarWars.net for fantastic Star Wars comedy, parody, satire, and relationship advice. Thanks to you and all our followers for listening. May the Halloween Faux be with you. See you next time.